Taemin rubbed his tired eyes and stared at the screen again. The deep space monitoring station New Seoul floated silently in the darkness between Earth and Mars, its sensors constantly watching for any signals from the far reaches of space. For 3 years, Taemin had worked the night shift, listening to the endless static and routine communications between human ships and alien trading posts. Tonight felt different, though. Something strange had come through the receivers about 6 hours ago. The signal originated from the Vega system, which was odd because no major alien settlements existed there according to official records. Taemin had run the signal through every decoding program available, but nothing worked. The transmission used patterns he had never seen before, almost like it was deliberately designed to avoid detection by standard human equipment. Mira walked into the communication center carrying 2 cups of coffee. She was the station's best xenolinguist, someone who could understand and translate almost any alien language humans had encountered. Her dark hair was tied back in a messy bun and she looked as tired as Taemin felt. "Still working on that weird signal?" she asked, handing him one of the cups. "Yeah, and it's driving me crazy," Taemin replied, taking a grateful sip of the hot coffee. "Look at these patterns. They're too organized to be natural interference, but they don't match any known alien communication protocols." Mira pulled up a chair next to him and studied the data on his screen. Her eyes narrowed as she scrolled through the complex wave, patterns, and frequency modulations. "This is definitely artificial," she said after a few minutes. "But you're right, it doesn't match anything in our databases." "That's what worries me," Taemin said. "We're supposed to know about all the major alien civilizations in this part of the galaxy. If someone is using communication methods we've never seen before, it means either we've discovered a completely new species or someone has been hiding from us." Mira leaned back in her chair, thinking. "Or maybe it's an old signal using outdated technology. Some of the ancient alien civilizations used communication methods that modern species abandoned centuries ago. But why would anyone use old technology for a transmission from Vega?" Taemin asked. "And why now?" They worked together for the next several hours, running the signal through different analysis programs and comparing it to historical communication records. The sun was starting to rise over Mars when Dong-Su arrived for his morning shift. He was young, probably fresh out of the Communications Academy, but he had already proven himself to be very good at pattern recognition. "What are you two still doing here?" Dong-Su asked, setting down his tablet and looking at their exhausted faces. "We found something strange," Mira explained, showing him the signal data. "It's encrypted using methods we can't identify." Dong-Su studied the information for a few minutes, then frowned. "Can I try something?" he asked. Without waiting for an answer, he started typing commands into the computer. "I've been studying historical communication protocols for a research project. Some of the pre-contact civilizations used really complex encryption methods." "Pre-contact?" Taemin asked. "You mean from before humans made first contact with aliens?" "Exactly," Dong-Su said, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "There were several advanced civilizations that existed centuries before humans developed faster-than-light travel. Most of them supposedly went extinct or evolved beyond the need for traditional communication, but their technical specifications are still in the historical archives." Mira and Taemin exchanged glances. If the signal was using pre-contact technology, it raised serious questions about who was sending it and why. After 2 more hours of work, Dong-Su suddenly sat up straight. "I think I found something," he said excitedly. "The encryption pattern matches a protocol used by something called the Galactic Coordination Network. According to these records, it was a communication system used by advanced civilizations for highly classified diplomatic exchanges. But that system was supposedly discontinued over 400 years ago," Mira said, reading over his shoulder. "That's what makes this so weird," Dong-Su replied. "Why would anyone be using a communication method that old?" Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. "Unless they didn't want modern civilizations to be able to decode it easily. If you're trying to keep something secret from current governments and species, using obsolete technology would be a smart way to do it." They spent the rest of the day working on breaking the encryption. Mira used her knowledge of ancient linguistic patterns, while Dong-Su applied his understanding of historical communication protocols. Taemin coordinated their efforts and ran their theories through the station's most powerful computers. As the hours passed, pieces of the message began to emerge. Individual words and phrases started to make sense, though the overall meaning remained unclear. What they could decode was troubling, though. They found references to monitoring protocols and population assessment and something called the human problem. Why would an ancient communication system be talking about humans? Mira wondered aloud. We've only been in contact with alien civilizations for about 200 years. Maybe it's not as ancient as we thought, Tae-min suggested. Maybe someone is just using old technology to hide their modern communications. By evening, they had decoded about 30% of the message. What they found made them all deeply uncomfortable. The transmission contained detailed information about human settlements, population numbers, and military capabilities. It also included references to containment protocols and acceptable loss parameters. This sounds like someone is planning something bad for humanity, Dong-su said quietly. Or they're discussing something bad that's already happening, Mira added grimly. The most disturbing part of the decoded message was a set of coordinates and a timestamp. The coordinates pointed to a location in empty space about 50 light-years from Earth, in a region that was supposedly uninhabited. The timestamp indicated a meeting that would take place in just 6 days. Whatever this is about, it's happening soon, Tae-min said. And based on what we've decoded so far, it involves making decisions about humanity's future. They decided to work through the night to decode as much of the message as possible. As more pieces fell into place, a terrifying picture began to emerge. The transmission was an invitation to an emergency session of something called the Restricted Council. The message discussed humans as if they were a dangerous animal species that needed to be managed or controlled. Most shocking of all were references to the Containment Project and mentions of 4 centuries of monitoring. If the message was accurate, it meant that humans had been under alien observation since before they had achieved space travel, possibly since before they had developed modern technology at all. This can't be right, Mira said, staring at the translated text. It's saying that first contact with aliens wasn't accidental. It's saying that aliens knew about us long before we knew about them. And it's suggesting that everything we think we know about human-alien relations is a lie, Tae-min added. As dawn approached, they had decoded enough of the message to understand its basic meaning. Someone, or some group of alien civilizations, had been secretly monitoring and manipulating human development for centuries. The upcoming meeting was to discuss what to do about humanity's recent technological advances and expanding influence in the galaxy. The final piece of decoded text was the most chilling of all. It mentioned final solution protocols and population reduction scenarios. Whatever this restricted council was planning, it didn't sound like it would be good for the human race. Tae-min looked at his colleagues and realized that they had stumbled upon something enormous. They had discovered evidence of a conspiracy that reached back centuries and involved the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. The question now was what to do with this information. We need to report this to Earth Command immediately, he said finally. But what if they don't believe us? Dong-su asked. This sounds so incredible. Then we'll have to find a way to prove it, Mira replied. Because if this message is real, then humanity is in more danger than we ever imagined. Jin-woo had seen a lot of classified reports during his 15 years with human intelligence, but nothing had prepared him for what Tae-min and his team had discovered. The decoded message from the monitoring station was spread across his desk, each page more disturbing than the last. If even half of what they had translated was true, then everything humans believed about their place in the galaxy was wrong. Sir, we've prepared the stealth ship as requested, Soo-jin said as she entered his office. She was Earth's best quantum engineer and one of the few people cleared to work with their most advanced experimental technology. The new quantum displacement field should make us completely invisible to standard detection methods. Good, Jin-woo replied, gathering the classified documents. Because if we're caught where we're going, it could mean war between humanity and every major alien civilization. Kyung-ho was already waiting in the ship's briefing room when they arrived. As Earth's chief military strategist, he had spent the last 3 days analyzing the implications of the intercepted message. His normally calm expression showed signs of deep concern. I've reviewed the coordinates from the signal, Kyung-ho said as they settled around the small table. The location is in what we call the neutral zone, supposedly empty space that no civilization claims. but our long-range sensors have detected some unusual gravitational anomalies in that area. What kind of anomalies? Sujin asked. The kind that suggest a very large artificial structure, Kyung-ho replied grimly. Something big enough to generate its own gravitational field. Their ship, the Silent Observer, was humanity's most advanced stealth vessel. Sujin had spent 2 years developing its quantum displacement technology, which could bend space around the ship to make it effectively invisible. It was still experimental, but it was their only hope of getting close enough to the meeting location without being detected. The journey to the coordinates took 4 days. During that time, they studied everything they could find about the alien civilizations that might be involved in this conspiracy. What they discovered was troubling. Many of humanity's supposed allies had technologies and capabilities that they had never shared with human scientists. Trade agreements that seemed beneficial to humans actually contained subtle restrictions that limited human technological development. Look at this, Sujin said on the 3rd day, showing them a technical analysis she had been working on. The Tyranny Federation gave us quantum drive technology 20 years ago, right? But according to these specifications, they deliberately left out key components that would have made our ships 3 times faster. And the Altair Collective, Kyung-ho added, pulling up his own research. They've been selling us weapons that are supposedly their latest designs, but the energy output suggests they're actually several generations behind what they use for their own military. Jin Woo studied their findings with growing anger. So, they've been keeping us deliberately weak while pretending to be our friends. It gets worse, Sujin continued. I've been analyzing the technological progression of human development since first contact. We should be much more advanced than we are. Every time our scientists make a breakthrough, it seems like we get distracted by some crisis or offered alien technology that's just good enough to stop our own research. When they finally reached the coordinates, what they found exceeded their worst fears. Hidden within a massive asteroid field was a space station unlike anything in human records. It was enormous, easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest. Orbital platforms, and its design incorporated architectural elements from dozens of different alien civilizations. How long do you think that's been here? Sujin whispered as they drifted closer under the cover of their stealth field. Based on the gravitational effects, probably centuries, Kyung-ho replied. This isn't something that was built recently. The station was busy with activity. Ships from civilizations that humans had never encountered were docking alongside vessels from species they knew well. Jin Woo recognized Tyranny Federation cruisers and Altair Collective transport ships, but there were dozens of other designs that were completely unfamiliar. Those are the ships of the elder races, Kyung-ho said, pointing to several massive vessels that dwarfed even the largest human battleships. I've only seen them in historical archives. They're supposed to be extinct or evolved beyond physical existence. Apparently not, Jin Woo muttered. They positioned their ship near a large asteroid that provided cover and began monitoring communications from the station. The quantum displacement field that hid them also allowed them to intercept transmissions without being detected. What they heard made their blood run cold. The meeting was already in progress, taking place in a vast chamber at the center of the station. Through carefully hidden sensors, they could see representatives from what appeared to be every major civilization in the galaxy. At the center of the gathering stood several beings that looked ancient beyond measure, their forms shifting between energy and matter in ways that hurt to watch. I am Elder Keeper Voss, one of the beings announced, its voice somehow reaching them despite the vacuum of space. This emergency session of the Restricted Council has been called to address the accelerating human problem. Another ancient being stepped forward. I am Elder Keeper Nala. For 400 Earth years, we have successfully maintained the Human Containment Project. However, recent developments suggest that our protocols may no longer be sufficient. Jin Woo exchanged shocked glances with his companions. 400 years meant that these aliens had been monitoring humanity since before they had developed space travel, possibly since the early days of industrial civilization. The humans have exceeded all predicted development parameters, Elder Keeper Voss continued. Despite our careful limitations on their technological advancement, they have created innovations that we did not anticipate. A familiar voice spoke up from the crowd. Jinwoo recognized it as belonging to Ambassador Thane of the Tarani Federation, someone who had been presented to humanity as their closest alien ally. "The containment protocols have worked exactly as designed," Ambassador Thane said. "We have prevented them from developing truly dangerous technologies while allowing enough advancement to keep them satisfied." "You call this success?" demanded another voice. This one belonged to a species Jinwoo didn't recognize, something that looked like a crystalline tree with multiple glowing nodes. "The humans have achieved faster-than-light travel, developed artificial intelligence, and established colonies on over 200 worlds, all while supposedly being contained." Elder Keeper Nala's form flickered with what might have been amusement. "You misunderstand the nature of the containment. We never intended to stop human development entirely. That would have made them suspicious and potentially dangerous. Instead, we guided their development along paths that we could control." "Explain," demanded the crystalline being. "Every major human technological breakthrough was either given to them by us or developed under our careful guidance," Elder Keeper Voss said. "Their faster-than-light drives are based on principles we taught them, but the designs we provided are deliberately inefficient. Their AI systems use algorithms we helped them develop, but with built-in limitations that prevent true consciousness." "And their military capabilities?" asked another representative. "Carefully managed," Ambassador Thane replied. "We provide them with weapons and defensive technologies that are sufficient for their local conflicts, but inadequate for challenging established galactic powers. Their ships are fast enough to feel advanced, but slow enough that we can always outrun them. Their weapons are powerful enough to win battles against other humans, but useless against our real military forces." Sujin grabbed Jinwoo's arm, her face pale with horror. "They're talking about us like we're pets," she whispered. The meeting continued for hours. The assembled aliens discussed humanity with the casual detachment of scientists studying laboratory animals. They talked about population control, technological restriction, and social manipulation as if these were routine administrative tasks. "The humans currently believe they are equal partners in galactic civilization," Elder Keeper Nala explained to the gathering. "This belief is essential to maintaining their cooperation. They must never realize that they are actually subjects in the largest biological and social experiment in galactic history." "What about their expansion rate?" asked a voice from the back of the chamber. "Their colonies are spreading faster than we predicted." "Within acceptable parameters," replied Elder Keeper Voss. "We have ensured that all their colonies are established in regions we consider unimportant. The truly valuable systems remain off-limits to them through various diplomatic and economic restrictions they believe are natural market forces." Jinwoo felt sick as he listened to the casual discussion of humanity's manipulation. Everything humans had achieved, every breakthrough they were proud of, had been allowed or guided by these aliens. Worse, it seemed that humanity's potential was far greater than they had ever realized. "The most concerning development," Elder Keeper Nala continued, "is their recent research into quantum consciousness transfer. If they achieve this breakthrough, independently, it could make them impossible to contain." Admiral Seok Jin stared at the recording for the third time, his weathered face growing darker with each replay. The evidence that Jinwoo's team had brought back from the secret meeting was spread across the secure briefing room table like pieces of a nightmare puzzle. President Young-yi sat beside him, her usual calm demeanor replaced by barely controlled fury. "How long have you known about this?" President Young-yi asked, her voice deadly quiet. "We suspected something was wrong for years," Admiral Seok-jin replied. "Trade restrictions that didn't make economic sense, technological limitations that seemed arbitrary, diplomatic protocols that always seemed to favor everyone except humans. But we never imagined anything this comprehensive." Dr. Haiwan entered the briefing room carrying a stack of research files. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had spent the last week analyzing every piece of biological data from humanity's first contacts with alien species. What she had discovered was even more disturbing than the secret meeting. "I need to show you something," Dr. Haiwan said, connecting her tablet to the main display. "Remember the medical protocols from first contact? The vaccines and health screenings that all humans had to undergo before meeting alien representatives?" "Of course," President Young-A replied. "Standard disease prevention measures." "That's what we were told," Dr. Haiwan said grimly. "But I've been analyzing the actual compounds that were administered. These weren't vaccines against alien diseases. They were genetic markers. She brought up a complex molecular diagram on the screen. Every human who received these vaccines was implanted with microscopic tracking devices that integrate with our DNA. They've been monitoring our biological development, population genetics, and even our brain chemistry for over 2 centuries. Admiral Seok-jin felt his stomach turn. You're saying they've been tracking us like animals. Worse than that, Dr. Hai-wan continued. Some of these markers appear to be designed to influence human development. They've been subtly altering our genetic expression, possibly to limit our natural capabilities or to make us more docile. Jae-sung, Earth's intelligence chief, had been quiet during the presentation, but now he leaned forward with a grim expression. It gets worse. We've discovered that several high-ranking officials in human governments have been compromised. He activated another display showing brain scans and medical records. These are scans from the annual medical examinations required for all senior government and military personnel. Look at these anomalies in the neural tissue. The scans showed tiny structures embedded in the brain tissue of dozens of important humans. Neural implants, Dr. Hai-wan identified immediately, designed to look like natural brain formations. We believe these implants allow for subtle influence over decision-making processes, Jae-sung explained. Not direct control, but the ability to nudge someone toward certain choices or to make them more agreeable to specific suggestions. President Young-i studied the scans with growing horror. How many of our people are affected? At least 30% of senior officials across all human governments and military organizations, Jae-sung replied. The implants were administered during routine medical procedures over the past 50 years. Most of the affected individuals have no idea they've been compromised. Mira had been working around the clock since the discovery, using her linguistic expertise to decode additional alien communications that Earth's intelligence services had intercepted over the years but never properly understood. Her findings painted an even more complete picture of the conspiracy. I've been analyzing communication patterns between known alien civilizations and Earth, Mira reported. There are consistent references to something called the Human Limitation Project. It appears that every major technology humans have developed has been deliberately restricted. She brought up a series of technical specifications. Our faster-than-light drives, for example. The aliens gave us the basic principles, but they left out key modifications that would have made our ships 10 times faster. Our weapons technology, our communication systems, our manufacturing capabilities, all of them are deliberately inferior versions of what we should have been able to develop. But why keep us weak instead of just destroying us? Admiral Seok-jin asked. Because they needed us, Dr. Hai-wan replied. Based on what I've discovered, humans have some unique biological and psychological characteristics that other species lack. Our adaptability, our creativity, our ability to innovate under pressure, these traits are apparently extremely rare in the galaxy. They've been using us as a resource, President Young-i realized, allowing us to develop just enough to be useful, but never enough to be dangerous. Taemin had continued his analysis of intercepted communications and made a discovery that changed everything. I found something else, he announced as he joined the briefing. Hidden in the background noise of routine diplomatic transmissions are references to Project Prometheus. That's impossible, Admiral Seok-jin said immediately. Project Prometheus was classified beyond top secret. It was officially shut down after the Tirani peace accords. That's what we were told, Taemin replied. But according to these communications, the aliens have been monitoring Prometheus facilities for decades. They know it was never really shut down. Project Prometheus had been humanity's secret weapons development program, started in response to early concerns about alien intentions. Officially, it had been terminated as a gesture of good faith during peace negotiations. Unofficially, it had continued operating in hidden facilities, developing technologies based on captured alien artifacts. If they know about Prometheus, then they know we've been developing weapons and technologies outside their control, President Young-i said. Which probably explains why they're moving to Final Protocol 7 now, Jin-woo added. They've realized that we're not as contained as they thought. Dr. Hai-wan pulled up another set of data. There's something else. I've been analyzing human technological development over the past 2 centuries, and I've found something remarkable. Despite all their limitations and manipulations, humans have consistently exceeded alien expectations. The display showed graphs comparing predicted and actual human achievements. They expected us to develop faster than light travel in 500 years. We did it in 200. They thought it would take us 1,000 years to establish successful colonies. We did it in less than 300. Even with all their restrictions, we've been developing faster than any species in recorded galactic history, which means our actual potential is far greater than even they realize. Admiral Seok Jin concluded. Exactly, Dr. Hai Wan confirmed. And that's what terrifies them. The secret meeting talked about humans developing quantum consciousness transfer. According to my research, we're not months away from that breakthrough. We're weeks away. Su Jin had been analyzing the technological restrictions placed on human development and made a startling discovery. I've been reverse engineering the limitations built into our technology. It turns out that most of the restrictions can be easily bypassed once you know they're there. She demonstrated with a standard human spacecraft engine design. This is a typical faster-than-light drive used by human ships, but if you modify these three components and adjust the quantum field generators this way, the engine becomes 30 times more efficient. Why didn't we discover this before? President Young-yi asked. Because the aliens made sure our research was always guided away from these modifications, Su Jin explained. They provided us with educational materials and training programs that made these approaches seem impossible or dangerous. But once you realize it's deliberate misdirection, the solutions become obvious. The implications were staggering. If humans could easily overcome the technological restrictions that had been placed on them, then they might be able to match or even exceed alien capabilities much faster than anyone had imagined. We need to make a decision, President Young AI said finally. Do we try to negotiate with the Galactic Council, or do we prepare for war? Negotiation assumes they're willing to treat us as equals, Admiral Seok Jin replied. Based on what we've learned, they see us as dangerous animals that need to be put down. Then we fight, President Young-yi decided. But first we need to level the playing field. Jae-sung had been developing plans for exactly this scenario. I recommend we begin immediate disclosure to the human population. People need to know what we're facing. At the same time, we activate all Prometheus facilities and begin crash programs to overcome the technological restrictions. How long do we have? President Young-a asked. According to the alien communications, Final Protocol 7 is scheduled to begin in less than 4 months, Mira reported. They plan to introduce biological agents into major human population centers, disguised as natural disease outbreaks. Then we have 4 months to transform humanity from a contained species into something that can defend itself against the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, Admiral Seok Jin said grimly. Dr. Hai Wan looked up from her research. Actually, I think we might have advantages they don't know about. The genetic modifications they've made to us over the centuries, some of them appear to have had unintended consequences. The announcement went out simultaneously across every human colony, station, and ship in the galaxy. President Young-a's voice carried the weight of centuries as she revealed the truth about humanity's place in the galactic community. Within hours, shock gave way to anger, and anger gave way to something the aliens had never seen before: unified human determination. Minho was working late in his cybersecurity lab on Luna Base when the announcement came through. As one of humanity's most skilled network specialists, he had always suspected that human communication systems had hidden vulnerabilities. Now he understood why. The aliens had built backdoors into every major human network to monitor their activities and control information flow. Not anymore, Minho muttered as he began typing furiously. He had spent years studying alien communication protocols as part of his regular job, but now he approached them with a completely different perspective. Instead of trying to interface with alien systems, he was going to break them. The first target was the monitoring network that tracked human communications. Minho had identified the quantum resonance frequencies that the alien systems used to intercept human transmissions. By generating specific interference patterns, he could not only block their surveillance, but also trace the signals back to their sources. Got you, he said with satisfaction, as his programs began mapping the hidden alien monitoring stations throughout human space. There were hundreds of them, disguised as routine navigation beacons and communication relays. Within hours, Human ships were moving to destroy or capture every single one. Dr. Haiwan had immediately begun working on countermeasures for the planned biological attack. Her analysis of the genetic markers in human DNA had revealed something. The aliens probably didn't know. Their centuries of genetic manipulation had made humans more resistant to biological weapons, not less. The irony is beautiful, she explained to her research team. They've been trying to make us easier to control, but instead they've accidentally made us harder to kill. Her team worked around the clock to develop broad-spectrum immune boosters, based on the enhanced genetic sequences the aliens had unknowingly created. If the aliens tried to release biological weapons, they would find that their target species was far more resilient than their models predicted. Meanwhile, Sujin had taken over the Emergency Technology Development Program. With the artificial limitations removed from human research, breakthrough followed breakthrough with stunning speed. The restricted modifications to faster-than-light drives were implemented within days, immediately tripling the speed of human ships. "Look at this!" Sujin called out excitedly as she ran tests on the improved engines. "We're not just matching alien capabilities, we're exceeding them. Their technology is actually more primitive than what we can build now." Boram emerged from the depths of the hidden Prometheus facilities with news that changed everything. Project Prometheus had not been idle during its years of supposed shutdown. Using captured alien artifacts and reverse-engineered technology, human scientists had been developing capabilities that even they hadn't fully understood. "We have weapons," Boram announced simply. "Not just better weapons, completely new types of weapons based on principles the aliens have never encountered." She demonstrated with a device no larger than a briefcase. "This is a quantum disruptor. It can disable any technology based on quantum field manipulation, which includes almost all alien faster-than-light drives and energy weapons." "How many do we have?" Admiral Seokjin asked. "We can produce them by the thousands," Boram replied. "And that's just the beginning. We've also developed something we call reality anchors, devices that can prevent the kind of dimensional manipulation that the elder races use for their advanced technologies." Yunji had been working as a terraforming engineer on the frontier colonies when the announcement came. She immediately began analyzing the pattern of human colonial failures over the past centuries. What she discovered was evidence of systematic sabotage. "They've been destroying our colonies," she reported to the Emergency Coordination Center. "Not directly, but through subtle environmental manipulation. Equipment failures that looked natural, ecological problems that seemed like bad luck, resource depletion that appeared to be poor planning." But Yunji's analysis revealed something else. The colonies that survived did so because the local teams developed innovative solutions that the aliens hadn't anticipated. "We've been selecting for adaptability and innovation without even realizing it." Her recommendations were immediately implemented across human space. Failed colonies were re-examined and re-established, using the new understanding of what had really happened to them. Within weeks, human expansion resumed at a pace that alarmed alien observers. The response from the Galactic Council was swift and predictable. Ambassador Thane of the Tirani Federation requested an immediate diplomatic meeting, claiming concern over unusual human military activities. Other alien representatives began making subtle threats about the consequences of violating various treaties and agreements. President Young-A's response was simple. "All previous agreements are void. They were made under false pretenses by a humanity that didn't understand its true situation." Jinwoo coordinated the intelligence war that erupted across human space. Every human facility that had previously welcomed alien visitors was now suspected of containing surveillance equipment or compromised personnel. The sweep to identify and remove alien influence revealed the staggering scope of the conspiracy. "They had agents everywhere," Jinwoo reported. "Not just the neural implants, but actual alien operatives disguised as humans, human collaborators, who had been recruited or coerced, and monitoring devices built into equipment we thought was purely human-made." The most shocking discovery came when they began testing human officials for the neural implants. Many of the affected individuals had no memory of receiving them, but the devices had been influencing their decisions for years. As the implants were safely removed, these officials reported feeling like they were thinking clearly for the first time in decades. "It's like waking up from a dream," reported General Chang, whose implant had been affecting his strategic thinking for over 20 years. I kept making decisions that seemed reasonable at the time, but now I can see how they consistently favored alien interests over human ones. Kyung-ho had been analyzing human military capabilities with the new understanding of what they were really facing. His conclusions were both sobering and encouraging. "We're outnumbered about 1,000 to 1, he reported to the Emergency Defense Council. But our technology is advancing so rapidly that the gap is closing every day. More importantly, we have strategic advantages that the aliens can't match." He displayed tactical analyses showing human performance in simulated combat scenarios. Human military doctrine emphasizes adaptability, innovation, and rapid response to changing conditions. Alien military thinking appears to be much more rigid and predictable. "What does that mean in practical terms?" Admiral Seok-jin asked. "It means that in any engagement, we'll be developing new tactics faster than they can adapt to them," Kyung-ho explained. "They've been fighting the same way for thousands of years because it always worked before. We change our approach with every battle." The proof came sooner than expected. A small Terrani Federation fleet arrived at the outer edge of human space, supposedly for routine patrol activities. When they detected the massive increase in human military preparedness, they attempted to retreat and report back to their superiors. They never made it. Human ships using the new faster-than-light drives intercepted them easily. The aliens found themselves facing weapons they had never encountered and tactics they couldn't predict. The engagement lasted less than 10 minutes. "We captured their entire fleet without losing a single ship," Admiral Seok-jin reported with amazement. "Their weapons couldn't penetrate our new defensive systems, and our quantum disruptors disabled their ships before they could even return fire." The interrogation of captured alien personnel revealed the depth of their shock. They had expected to face the same limited human technology they had been monitoring for centuries. Instead, they encountered capabilities that exceeded their own by orders of magnitude. "They keep asking how we developed so much so quickly," Jae-sung reported. "They can't understand that we were always capable of this. They just prevented us from realizing it." Dr. Haiwan made the breakthrough that changed everything. Working with tissue samples from the captured aliens, she discovered something remarkable about human biology compared to other galactic species. "We're not just different," she announced to the Emergency Council. "We're evolutionarily unique. Every other species in the galaxy appears to have reached biological stability millions of years ago. They stopped evolving, stopped adapting, and—" "Humans?" President Young-hee asked. "We're still evolving, still adapting, still changing," Dr. Haiwan explained. "That's why we can innovate so quickly. That's why we can adapt to new situations faster than they can respond. We're not just a different species, we're a different kind of species." Su-jin had been working on the quantum consciousness transfer, technology that the aliens feared so much. With the restrictions removed and unlimited resources available, the demonstration began at exactly 1200 hours Galactic Standard Time. Every alien civilization in the galaxy watched as Su-jin activated humanity's first stable artificial wormhole in the space between Earth and Mars. The energy readings were impossible according to every known law of physics. Yet there it was, a permanent gateway that could transport matter and energy instantaneously across vast distances. "Phase 1 complete," Su-jin announced from the control center of humanity's newest space station. "Wormhole stability at 100%. No energy fluctuation detected. Elder Keeper Voss materialized aboard the emergency session of the HFY Galactic Council, his ancient form flickering with what could only be described as terror." "They've done it," he said simply. "The humans have achieved dimensional transcendence." The wormhole was just the beginning. Dr. Haiwan stepped through a portal that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, her consciousness enhanced by the quantum transfer technology that allowed her to perceive reality from perspectives that would have driven any other species insane. She was still recognizably human, but she was also something entirely new. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Council," Dr. Haiwan said, her voice reaching them across impossible distances without any technological mediation. "I am here to discuss the future of galactic civilization." The assembled aliens recoiled from her presence. Where they saw limitation and fixed natural laws, she saw infinite possibility and malleable reality. Where they experienced linear time. She existed in a quantum superposition that allowed her to perceive all potential futures simultaneously. "This is what you feared," she continued, her words carrying harmonics that resonated in dimensions the aliens couldn't access. "This is what 4 centuries of containment accidentally created. You tried to limit us, and instead you taught us to transcend limitations themselves." President Young-A's address to the Galactic Council was broadcast across every communication network in known space. Unlike previous diplomatic communications, this one could not be blocked, filtered, or ignored. Minho had ensured that humanity's message would reach every sentient being in the galaxy. "We know what you did," President Young-A said simply. "We know about the centuries of manipulation, the technological restrictions, the genetic modifications, the planned genocide. We know about the lies you told us and the lies you told yourselves." Her image appeared simultaneously on the command bridges of 10,000 alien ships, in the council chambers of every major civilization, and in the private quarters of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. There was no escape from humanity's revelation. "But we're not here for revenge," she continued. "We're here to offer you something you've never had before, a partnership with a species that refuses to accept limitations." The response from the Galactic Council was immediate chaos. Representatives demanded to know how humans had developed such impossible technologies so quickly. Others insisted that the demonstrations must be illusions or tricks. But the Elder Keepers knew better. "It's real," Elder Keeper Nala admitted to the assembled council. "Our analysis confirms that the humans have achieved technologies that we believe to be theoretically impossible. They have transcended the physical limitations that have bound galactic civilization for millions of years." "How is this possible?" demanded the crystalline being that had previously advocated for Final Protocol 7. "Our models showed that they were centuries away from these breakthroughs." "Our models were wrong," Elder Keeper Voss replied with something that might have been admiration. "We assumed that biological evolution followed the same patterns for all species. We assumed that technological development had natural limits. We assumed that consciousness was bound by physical reality. And the humans proved all our assumptions. False," Elder Keeper Nayla added. "They didn't just overcome our containment protocols. They used them as stepping stones to transcendence." Jinwoo materialized in the council chamber without using any visible transportation technology. His form was still human, but it existed in multiple realities simultaneously, allowing him to be present in several locations at once while maintaining a single coherent consciousness. "You're wondering how we did it," he said, addressing the assembled aliens directly. "The answer is simple. You taught us. Every limitation you placed on us forced us to find new solutions. Every restriction you imposed made us more creative. Every attempt to contain us made us stronger." "Impossible," the crystalline being protested. "No species can develop this rapidly." "No other species," Jinwoo corrected. "But then, no other species has ever been what humans are. You spent so long studying us that you forgot the most important thing about us. We don't accept that something is impossible just because no one has done it before." The proof of humanity's transformation was everywhere. Human ships began appearing throughout the galaxy, not through faster-than-light travel, but through dimensional folding that made distance irrelevant. Human colonies established themselves on planets that had been considered uninhabitable, using technologies that restructured reality itself to create ideal living conditions. Kyung-ho had developed military strategies that existed outside conventional space-time, allowing human forces to defend positions that hadn't been attacked yet and to counter threats that wouldn't exist for centuries. The very concept of warfare changed when one side could operate from multiple temporal perspectives simultaneously. "The old galactic order is over," Kyung-ho announced to the Galactic Defense Council. "Not because we destroyed it, but because we've evolved beyond it. You can't fight a species that exists in 7 dimensions when you're limited to 3. But the most profound change came from Boram's work with the Prometheus technologies. The weapons and defensive systems that humanity had developed weren't just more powerful than alien equivalents. They operated on completely different principles. "We don't need to destroy your weapons," Boram explained to a group of captured alien military commanders. "We can simply make them irrelevant. Watch." She activated a device that reconfigured the quantum foundations of reality in a localized area. Within seconds, every piece of alien technology in the demonstration zone simply stopped functioning. Not damaged or disabled, but fundamentally unable to operate in the new physical environment that Boram had created. This is reality manipulation, on a scale we never imagined possible, one of the commanders whispered. They can change the laws of physics themselves. Not change them, Boram corrected. Expand them. The universe is much larger and more flexible than your species ever realized. We're just showing you what's actually possible. The final phase of humanity's demonstration involved Yunji's terraforming work, but on a galactic scale. Using the new dimensional technologies, she began restructuring entire solar systems to optimize them for life. Dead worlds became garden paradises. Hostile environments became welcoming havens. Even empty space itself was transformed into habitable regions. We're not just changing planets, Yunji explained to the amazed alien observers. We're changing what it means to live in the universe. Scarcity, resource limitations, environmental constraints. These are all problems that only exist if you accept physical reality as fixed and unchangeable. But the energy requirements alone, protested an alien scientist, are irrelevant when you can access infinite energy from parallel dimensions, Yunji replied. You've been thinking too small. The Galactic Council faced a choice that no civilization in recorded history had ever confronted. They could either accept humanity as the new dominant species in the galaxy, or they could face the consequences of opposing beings who had transcended the physical limitations that defined all other life. Elder Keeper Voss spoke for the assembled council. We surrender, he said simply, not to conquest, but to evolution. The humans have become something beyond our ability to comprehend or oppose. We don't want your surrender, President Youngie replied, her image appearing before the council once again. We want your partnership. The universe is infinite and there's room for all of us to grow. But under human leadership, Elder Keeper Nala observed, under the leadership of whoever is best qualified to guide galactic civilization toward its full potential, President Young A corrected. If that's humans today, it might be someone else tomorrow. We're not interested in domination. We're interested in possibility. The transformation of galactic civilization began immediately. Human technologies were shared freely with any species that wanted to evolve beyond their current limitations. The rigid hierarchies and territorial restrictions that had defined galactic politics for millions of years were replaced by cooperative networks focused on exploration and discovery. Mira established the new galactic communication protocols, ensuring that no species could ever again be secretly manipulated or controlled by others. The network operated on quantum consciousness principles that made deception impossible and manipulation detectable. No more secrets, Mira announced as the system came online. No more hidden agendas. No more species preying on others through information control. Taemin found himself in charge of the new Deep Space Exploration Initiative, using humanity's dimensional technologies to investigate regions of the universe that had been considered unreachable.